And welcome to another edition of Quoth Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I am your host, Lewis Bright Raven. This is Season 2, Episode 25, Depression, Impressions, and the Eisners, among other things, for June 18th, 2020. So I'm running a little bit late on schedule today. I don't know what happened other than I probably nodded off after dinner. Still kind of setting things up. So just bear with me if you would, please. I'd appreciate it. But hope everyone's doing okay this week. It's been kind of a crappy week for myself, unfortunately. We'll try and get to things really quick. Here, I'm just trying, like I said, just trying to get everything set up. Be a few more moments. Again, I apologize for the delay. Just want to get everything right before we go further into it. Oh, jeez. Silly computer. I'll find it. I'm in another window at the moment. That's why I'm not checking responses. I know there's been a few comments. Just give me a few more moments here. I can just find the right thing I'm looking for. Ah, there it is. Okay. There we are. So, again, let's see what we got going on here. John Morris and Ted Davies are two of our regular viewers. Say good evening, and good evening to you, gentlemen, and anyone else who might be watching. It's just been kind of a, like I said, kind of a lousy week. Finished doing my taxes last weekend, and well, let's just say it didn't turn out very well. I don't owe money, but that's because I didn't make any money last year, basically. And I'm not going to go any further into that, because if I do, I'll go into a very nasty rant about towards a whole lot of different people, and that's not going to do anybody any favors. So we'll just not talk about that. Hope other people's day and week have been a little bit better than mine in that regard. So let's go ahead and get to the questions this week. First question was basically a bunch of different people, but I put it this way. What do you think about what has been brought to light about artist Cameron Stewart abusing women in the past? Another disgruntled comic fan who is sick of creators' bad behaviors. Obviously, I'm not happy about it. There's been a lot of people coming forward about not just him, but it seems like every day there's a turnaround coming out of some successful male individual who was supposedly, allegedly groomed, sexually harassed, made sexual advances towards women in an appropriate manner. And it could be recent, it can be years and years and years and years and years ago. And well, obviously nothing is when you got inappropriate behavior, you don't want to condone that, and we want to clamp down on that and get rid of that in our industry and in the entertainment industry as a whole. I also can't say I'm not annoyed when I see allegations of stuff that happened 15, 20, 25 years ago being brought up and people being charged over stuff from that long ago, too, in a way. Obviously, if there's something where it's a sexual assault or something, that's a different situation. But a lot of cases, it's really not that. It's something may have happened, but not to that full of an extent, I guess you could say. And it gets trumped up and made up, and then people do an investigation. They find out it's not that serious, and charges aren't pressed, but the person's reputation is ruined. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with Cameron Stewart. I do not know the actual situation. But I've been the target of that in the past myself, I guess, is the best way I can put it, and I'm tired of it. If you've got something to say, that's fine. But don't put it on social media. Just go to the damn law enforcement and file your charges or file your complaint with the law enforcement, and preferably do it, within a reasonable time when it happened, not 5, 10, 15, 20 years later. It's almost like, well, this person's a success. Let me see what I can get out of them now. And I hate to say that, but that's what it feels like to me a lot of the time. Maybe it's just because there's just so many of us who are successful males who have done it. I don't know. It's crazy. But when you constantly wondering, leaving men wondering, well, gee, should I even communicate with a woman because I might get accused of something later on? That's how it's starting to get, and that's not right either. So, but no, I don't condone Cameron Stewart's actions based on what I have read. But it's not like he's the only one who's ever done that either. So I don't know. It's a tough situation for everyone. Next question. Mr. Z asks, do you think that UCS or Lunar distributors will start carrying other comics besides DC anytime soon? And should they? Well, I would hope that they would. I don't know what their situation is financially. I don't know what their parameters are, how long it's going to take them to set up properly and be able to do that. But I also don't think that's really an issue right now per se, because a lot of companies are just doing self-distribution. Scout's got that in addition to Diamond. TKO has been self-distributing. In fact, TKO just announced their trade distribution through Ingram Content Group, which is really a larger distribution group than Diamond, technically, even though Ingram was sort of a subcontractor that took the Diamond, fulfilled it, but then shipped it to Ingram, who shipped it to Ingram's clientele base. But technically, Ingram was fulfilling it. So all TKO is doing is eliminating one step of the process and making sure Jeppy doesn't get his cut. So a lot of publishers might go that route in the near future. There's a lot of things going on, and I wouldn't be surprised if Diamond, as we know it, ceases to exist by, maybe the end of next year, maybe 2022 at the latest. I think we'll be seeing a lot more diversity of range of distribution, and not just UCS and Lunar. I think people are going to embrace with Ingram. I think they're going to go with BCH. I think they're going to go, maybe talk to some of the more established print-on-demand groups like Indie Planet and Lulu.com. So, it's just going to be a kind of a constantly moving arrangement as we move forward, as it pertains to distribution, until things settle down a little bit. Now, I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. I think the retailers are the ones that are going to be complaining the most, because they're not going to know what I'll do. But all I can say to retailers is that's what retailing is. You're supposed to have multiple distribution for your products, and you're supposed to use them to your benefit. So, but I understand the pandemic and with the way things are right now and how long they've been doing it, so to speak, exclusively through Diamond. It's very difficult. Some of these guys don't know any better because they've had their whole careers under the Diamond banner, and they don't realize and understand. That's basic retailing 101. So, next question. Anonymous asks, do you think that other companies will remain with Diamond after the mess has become a situation with DC? I think I've already addressed that pretty much. Different people are going to do different things. Like I said, Scouts got self-distribution as well as distributed through Diamond. TKO self-distributing, and their trades are going through Ingram. I think TKO might even have a Diamond deal forthcoming as well. I don't know. I think a lot of people are just going to, see what comes their way. So we'll, it's still, everything's in flux in that regard. Our next question. The Eisner Award nominees for 2020 were recently announced. What do you think of the nominees? I didn't see many of the books mentioned as any of the stuff you've read or previewed. For a guy who prides himself on being diverse, I would think you'd have a sizable selection in your collection. That was Jack A. Now, I think you all know what A stands for. And you know who you are. But since you mentioned it, we're going to talk about the Eisners. And we're going to go through them. And you're going to see that I actually did have quite a few, and I have talked about quite a few things. But, okay, you want to talk about the Eisners, we'll talk about the Eisners. Let's go ahead and stop that screen and add a different one. And that is, we're going to go over to ICV2 and show the actual nominees for the 2020 awards. These were just announced recently, about 2 weeks ago, actually. And I didn't realize it had been announced. Hadn't crossed my news feed, ironically. I guess more, you'd think it would be coming across multiple news channel feeds. This is the Eisners, our big awards, but I didn't see anything even mentioned anywhere. So it's across my news feeds anywhere. So I was a little bit surprised that no one else had talked about it. But as I said, there was no big book this year. Nominations were spread across a broad array of titles. Various independent companies getting a lot. Marvel got 4, stuff like that. DC got 5 or something like that. But, a lot of independent companies got mentioned. So we'll go ahead and go through the full list here. The first category is Best Short Story. The nominees are Hot Comb by Ebony Flowers and Hot Comb, which is an anthology series from Drawn and Quarterly. How to Draw a Horse from Emma Hunsinger, which was appeared in the New Yorker magazine. The Menopause by Mira Jacob in The Believer magazine. Who Gets Called an Unfit Mother by Miriam Lebicki in The Nib, which is another anthology magazine. And You're Not Going to Believe What I'm About to Tell You by Matthew Inman at the Oatmeal. I'm going to be honest, I'm not familiar with any of those particular stories. I don't read The New Yorker. I don't read The Believer. Hot Comb and The Nib, I've heard of them, but they're not readily available in my area as anthologies. They're by companies that you have to kind of special order everything ahead of time, and I don't always catch everything in previews, so I just miss those, basically. So I have no opinion on that particular category. I do think, however, there's probably some more, I guess you could say, mainstream. So mainstream is the wrong word, because the reality is New Yorker and The Believer are more mainstream in America than the comic book industry is. But when I say mainstream, I'm talking about the diamond market, more or less. I think there's probably some short stories that were published over the year that probably should have been included in this, but I'm not gonna. Nothing speaks to me off the top of my head that I could say for this particular category. So we'll just leave it as it is, and I don't have much else to say on that category. The best single issue or one shot is between Coin Op number 8, Infatuation by Peter Maria Hoey by Coin Op Books, The Freak by Matt Lensnewinski by Ad House, Minotaur by Lisa Treiman from Shortbox Publications. My favorite thing is Monsters by Emil Ferris, Fantagraphics Books, and Sobek by James Stokoe from Shortbox. I've read My Favorite Thing is Monsters, did not see the best one shot afterward. Our Favorite Thing is, I assume it is a sequel to the graphic novel from Fantagraphics from Ferris. Wasn't a big fan of the graphic novel, but I understand why it was popular. So that's, I understand why it got nominated. I'm familiar with The Freak and Minotaur and Coin Op. Not familiar with Sobek, but I am familiar with James Stokoe. If I had to pick one for best single issue, I'd probably go with The Freak. I did not review The Freak on the podcast, but I have read it. And part of the reason I didn't review it here on the show was because I borrowed it instead of a purchase, and I didn't have a chance to get it all scanned and do for the show. But basically, it's about, so to speak, the world's ugliest person in a way. And it's not a very it speaks about the prejudices of society and how we judge one another on appearances and other things like that. And obviously that's a very touchy subject matter in our society right now. Things that make us different seem to be things that we always use to persecute and prejudice against one another. And, so it's very topical and it fits the mold, and it's, not it's certainly a reasonable choice to be nominated. So of all those, I would think that would be the most subjectively I don't want to say important, but relevant to what's going on in society right now. So I would say I would probably back The Freak out of those particular nominations. The best continuing series is Bitterroot by David Walker, Chuck Brown, and Sanford Green by Image Comics. Criminal by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips from Image Comics. Crowded by Christopher Sabala, Rose Stein, and Ted Brandt from Image Comics. Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky and Marco Giacchetto from Marvel Comics. The Dreaming by Simon Spurrier, Bilquis Evely, etc. From DC Comics. And Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing, Joe Bennett, and Rui Jose, and others from Marvel Comics. Well, I'm going to sound a little bit biased here. I'm going to go with Bitterroot. I am a friend with all three creators on that book. Two of them even live here in Columbia, in my backyard. But the main reason I'm going with them is because I'm sick of Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips Criminal, and they almost always get nominated for this. It's like, move on, next thing. I haven't read Crowded, so I don't have an opinion. I can't stand Chip Zdarsky's writing, and I really haven't liked Daredevil in ages, so that doesn't work for me. The Dreaming did not do anything for me, and I understand the popularity of Immortal Hulk, but I'm not a fan of it. So, by default, it's Bitterroot for me. Best continuing series, if I was going to pick one that wasn't on this list. That's tough because there's not a whole lot of continuing series I read these days. I'd probably go with House of Whispers um, from DC. That's Nalo Hawkinson and oh shoot, I can't think of the artist's name off the top of my head. Dan Waters is the co-writer with Nalo on the book. Dominique Stanton. That's who the artist is. That's probably what I would say for the best continuing series. If I wasn't going to go Bitterroot, I'd go there. So that would be my choices on that. Let's see what else they got here. The best limited series is Ascender by Jeff Lemire and Destin Nguyen by Image Comics, Ghost Tree by Bobby Curnow and Simon Game from IDW Publishing, Little Bird by Darcy Van Polgeest. Hope I didn't slaughter that name. And Ian Bertram from Image Comics, Naomi by Brian Michael Bendis, David Walker, and Jamal Campbell from DC Comics, and Sentient by Jeff Lemire and Gabriel Walta. Well, I'm a little bit annoyed at the fact that two different books from Jeff Lemire got nominated. I think I just need to stop doing that, giving the same people all the nominations all the time. Two different nominations in the same category, the same people year after year. There are other books out there to be considered. So I would, I wouldn't go with any of these. I don't like, Bendis, kiss my ass. Sorry. I'll wait and give my nomination to Jamal Campbell next year for Far Sector for best limited series if it gets there. Then, with Nora Jemisin, if I want to support Jamal Campbell, and David I've already mentioned with Bitterroot, so what the heck? He doesn't need another one. I don't know Little Bird, and I don't really know Ghost Tree, and like I said, Lemire. No, I'm sorry, he's had too much. There's other people out there. Best limited series. Trying to think of what I would really give a best limited series run to. I'd probably give it to Walt Simonson Ragnarok. If they want to, I just, but I don't know if they want to call that a best limited series or a best ongoing, because there's a sub story to what's going on with them, and it's 6 issues each, but it's still a continuing story. So I don't know how they would qualify that, but if it qualified for best limited series, that's what I would do, is put Ragnarok by Walt Simonson from IDW. Best new series, Doctor Doom by Christopher Cantwell and Salvador Larroca from Marvel Comics. Invisible Kingdom by G. Willow Wilson and Christian Ward from Berger Books, Dark Horse Comics. Wants of Future by Kieran Guillen and Dan Mora from Boom Studios. Something is Killing Your Children by James Tynion IV and Werther Deladera from Boom Studios. And Undiscovered Country by Scott Snyder, Charles Soule, Giuseppe Camuncoli, and Danielle Orlandini from Image. Didn't read the Doctor Doom series, heard about it. I've read Cantwell and other things. Probably pretty decent story, but I'm not interested in Doctor Doom. Invisible Kingdom, I've reviewed. I like it just fine. I have no problem with it being nominated. I just didn't realize it was going to be nominated as Best New Series. I would have figured Best New Series last year, but that's okay. Once in Future, I have on order for the first trade volume. Haven't received it. Can't tell you. Something is Killing the Children. I was supposed to review this week. I got it last week, the first trade. Didn't get around to reading it. We'll review it next week. Undiscovered Country, Snyder, Soule, overrated, overused, passed. So if I'm going to pick one of those 5, I have to go with Invisible Kingdom, just because that's the one I'm really familiar with. Best publication for early readers. All these are stuff that is not relatively found in comic book shops. You have to go to a bookstore. I haven't been going to bookstores, so I'm not familiar with any of these. So I have no opinion on any of those. I can run them down for you. Comics Easy as ABC by Ivan Brunetti from Toon, Kitten Construction Company, A Bridge to Fur by John Patrick Green by First Second Books, Macmillan. The Pigeon Has to Go to School by Will Willems, Hyperion Books. A Trip to the Top of the Volcano with Mouse by Frank Viva from Toon, and Vamos, Let's Go to the Market by Raoul III, Versify. Also Houghton Milfin Harcourt, and Who Wet My Pants by Bob Shea, and Zachariah O'Hara by Little and Brown. Again, not familiar with any of it. Early readers, I guess, would have to be under the age of 5, under age of 6. I don't know. I'm not really familiar. I don't remember that category very well for the Eisners, but I really don't have any familiarity with any of that stuff, so I don't have an opinion. Best publication for kids: a Kesey, More Tales of Mischief. That's volume 2, basically, by Marguerite Aboe and Mathieu Sapin, or Sapin, by Flying Eye and Nobrow Press. Dogman, For Whom the Bell Tolls, by Dav Pilkey from Scholastic Graphics. Guts by Raina Telgemeier, Scholastic Graphics. New Kid by Jerry Kraft, Quilltree, HarperCollins. This Was Our Pact, by Ryan Andrews, First Second Books, Macmillan. And The Wolf in Underpants by Wilfred Lupano, Mariana E. Toltz, and Paul Cailloux from Graphic Universe Learning Publishing, or Lerner Publishing Group. I'm familiar with the Kesey, and obviously I'm familiar with anything by Raina Telgemeier. I've seen The Wolf in Underpants, have not read it, but I've seen the book on the internet. I've seen mention of it. I hate to say it, but almost by default, Telgemeier is probably going to win it because she wins everything that she gets nominated for. It seems like, but I think I'd rather go with a Kesey, More Tales of Mischief. Probably might it might actually beat out Telgemeier this year because of the Black Lives Matter movement. It is about an African American character, so it might actually surpass Raina this year. And if it does, I don't think Raina's going to mind too much. I mean, she's got some freaking many awards. She practically built her foundation for home on them. So I don't think she's going to mind. So, I guess I would go with a Kesey for that off the top of my head. I kind of wish that Archie's Cosmo first miniseries from last year had gotten in to the nominations. I think it probably should have, because all these companies are book companies, not comic companies, and I would have liked to see a comic company get nominated. So if I had to add one or make another suggestion, I would have probably put Cosmo the Mighty Martian from Archie in there. The best publication for teens is Harley Quinn Breaking Glass from Marika Tamaki and Steve Pugh from DC Comics. Hot Comb, which you've already mentioned, from Ebony Flowers, drawn quarterly. Kiss Number 8 by Colleen A.F. Venable and Ellen T. Crenshaw from First Second Books, Macmillan. Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me by Marika Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell, pardon me. First Second Books, Macmillan. And Penny Nichols by M.K. Reed, Greg Means, and Matt Weigel from Top Shelf Productions. Most of these books seem to have a little bit of a LGBTQ theme on them. Harley Quinn, Breaking Glass, Kiss Number 8, Laura Dean. Some of these other books have that kind of a vibe to them. I know we're supposed to be more accepting. I think there's just better publications for teens available than a lot of these, but if I had to pick one, I would pick Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me book. Again, we see another situation where Marika Tamaki's nominated twice in the same category. Pick one, judges. Just pick one, and then give someone else an opportunity. There's other stuff out there. Best publication for teens. Jeez. I'm not sure. Off the top of my head, I can't name one off the top of my head. But because I'm thinking stuff that'll be for next year, not this year. Next year will be a much bigger year, in my opinion. But we'll see. The best humor publication is Anatomy of Authors by Dave Kellett, SheldonComics.com, Death Winds the Goldfish by Brian Reed by Chronicle Books, Minotaur by Lisa Trinan, Shortbox, Sobek from James Stelco from Shortbox, The Way of the House Husband Volume 1 by Kazuki Ono, translation by Sheldon Drizka from Ms. Vidia, and Wondermark, Friends You Can Ride On by David Malky from Wondermark. My pick on that is Death Winds the Goldfish. My second pick on that would be probably Minotaur. Either one of those two are Sobek wins. I'm good. The other three, I don't know, to be honest. Humor publications are a little bit of an odd thing. There's not that many odd, really true humor comics in the so-called diamond market mainstream, which is a problem. And I wish that more publishers would focus on getting more of that kind of material out. Maybe that's something that we can all address with in the future. Best anthology this year is a little bit odd too, but we'll go through it. The best anthology is ABC, a typography from David Rout, from Self-Made Hero. Baltic Comics Anthology, number 34 through 37, edited by David Schilter. Sanita Moines and others from Kus. I'm not familiar with that one at all. I think that's a European, Baltic, yeah, obviously, Baltic Sea, it's European. Drawing Power, Women's Stories of Sexual Violence, Harassment, and Survival, edited by Diane Newman from Abrams Publications. Kramer's Ergo, number 10, edited by Sammy Harcum from Fantagraphic Books, and The Nib, numbers 2 through 4, edited by Matt Bors from Nib. Obviously, I haven't seen The Nib. I mentioned that earlier. I really haven't seen any of these. If I had to pick based on what I've heard about them and read about them, I would say Drawing Power is probably the one that's going to win. Again, that's more of a statement of the social issues prevalent in society right now. I don't know if it's really the best one of the five, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wins. The Nib would probably be a second choice of expectation to win. I'm not really sure. Anthologies this year just were very weak. We didn't have any good mainstream diamond market anthologies. Like, we didn't have a Dark Horse Presents to speak of that I know of, because if they did, I'd probably be getting it. I've always bought Dark Horse Presents. Pop Gun's been out of the market from Image for a while now. I don't think Image did any major anthology books this past year, off the top of my head. I just don't think of anything off the top of my head as an anthology book that really stands out. So I guess the list is as solid as it's going to be. And like I said, I presume that the women's stories anthology is going to be the winner. Best reality-based work. Good Talk, a memoir and conversations by Mira Jacob from One World Random House. Grass by Kyum Suk Jindri Kim, translation by Jeanette Hong from Drawn and Quarterly. Kid Gloves, 9 Months of Careful Chaos by Lucy Kinsley for her second book, Macmillan. Moonbound, Apollo 11 and a Dream of Spaceflight by Jonathan Federer-Firm, Hill and Wang. My Solo Exchange Diary, Volume 2, which is a sequel to My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness by Nagata Kabi, translation by Jocelyn Allen, 7 Seas Entertainment. And They Called Us Enemy by George Takei, Justin Eisinger, Stephen Scott, and Harmony Becker from Top Shelf Productions. Far and away, I have to go with this. They Called Us Enemy on this. Head and shoulders above. I'm sorry. I have reviewed this on the podcast before. I've mentioned it in previews when it was solicited that you should check that book out. It's about the Japanese Americans being put into concentration camps here in America after the attack on Pearl Harbor in World War II era and what we did to the poor Japanese Americans in this country, especially on the West Coast. And George Takei, who you all know as Sulu from Star Trek, was a little boy, and he had to live in those conditions when he was a little boy. And so it's autobiographical, reality-based work. And I think that's like that one is definitely the most powerful one, I think, of all those, and should win in my opinion. It would have been the one I would have probably said is the best. So there you go for that. This year, which will be mentioned next year, I hope it's going to be the Tiananmen Square book from Top Shelf IDW. But we'll see. Whoops. Best graphic album, new. That's what I was looking for. There was Are You Listening, Tilly Walden, second books, Macmillan. Back up the ways in an earlier category. I think it was best publication for teens. I was wanting to know why that wasn't nominated for that category, and instead it was nominated down here for best graphic album. So I was like, at least it got nominated. I was happy to see it get nominated. So best graphic album, new, is Are You Listening by Tilly Walden, first, second books, Macmillan, Bezamena by Nina Bunjevic, from Fantagraphics Books, BTTM FDRS by Ezra Clayton Daniels and Ben Passmore from Fantagraphics Books, Life on the Moon by Robert Grossman, Yo Books, IDW Publishing, New World by David Jesus Vignoli, Archaea Boom Studios, and Reincarnation Stories by Kim Deitch from Fantagraphics Books. I would go with Are You Listening by Tilly Walden, or I would go with Reincarnation Stories by Kim Deitch of those listed. And since those two were listed, I'm pretty much satisfied. I don't think I really need to name another one as another suggestion. Best graphic album reprint is Bad Weekend by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, Image Comics. Clyde Fans by Seth, drawn in quarterly. Cover. I don't know why I said Cover. I don't know why, because I thought I was thinking it was Clover. All right. Cover Volume 1 by Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack, DC Comics Jinx World. Glenn Ganges, The River at Night by Kevin Huizenga, drawn in quarterly. LaGuardia, that should be 2 words, by Nnedi Okorafor, Antenna 4, Burger Books, Dark Horse Comics, and Rusty Brown by Chris Ware and Pantheon. Seth and Chris Ware always get this nomination. Goodbye. Brubaker has had his nominations and wins. Goodbye. Bendis, screw you. Goodbye. That leaves Glenn Ganges and LaGuardia. And I got to go with Nnedi Okorafor. I've reviewed LaGuardia. I gave it a 4.5 star, 5-star rating on that series regularly in the singles. So, yeah, that's the one I would pick for the graphic album reprint. No problem. So much I'm sorry, I have been reviewing these, Jack A. But the best adaptation from another medium is Giraffes on Horseback Salad. That's a heck of a name. Salvador Dali, The Marx Brothers, and The Strangest Movie Never Made by Josh Frank, Tim Heidecker, and Manuela Pertega by Quirk Books. The Giver by Lois Lowry and P. Craig Russell, HMH Books for Young Readers. The Handmaid's Tale, the graphic novel by Margaret Atwood, adapted by Renee Nault by Nan Ateliers Publishing. H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness, Volumes 1 and 2, adapted by Gal Tanabe, translation by Zach Davison from Dark Horse Comics. The Seventh Voyage by Stanislaw Lem, adapted by John Muth, translation by Michael Candell from Scholastic Graphics. And Snow Glass Apples by Neil Gaiman and Colin Dorn, based on Neil Gaiman's short fiction story published by Dark Horse Comics. All of them are worthy nominations. I'm kind of surprised that I didn't realize that the Seventh Voyage was a Scholastic graphics book. To see Scholastic adapt a Stanislaw Lem story is something else in a way. Stanislaw Lem is a very heavy I want to say Russian or Polish, but I can't remember which one he is. But heavy-duty science fiction writer. So, it's a little bit surprised to see something like that adapted by Scholastic. But I would hope it would either be Lovecraft's The Mountains of Madness or Snow Glass Apples. But, and if I had to pick one, I'd probably go Snow Glass Apples. But at the same time, Neil's won so many Eisners and awards as you're pulling another one. At the same time, Colleen's overlooked. So I that's a kind of a, if they win, I'm happy. If they don't, I understand. But if they don't win, I hope it's for the Lovecraft series. Best U.S. edition of international material is Diabolical Summer by Thierry Smolderin and Alexandre Clarice. Translation by Edward Gauvin by IDW Publishing. Gramercy Park by Timothy Dom Fombelle and Christian Calais. Translation by Edward Gauvin, Eurocomics IDW Publishing. The House by Paco Roca. Translation by Andrea Rosenberg, Fantagraphics Books. Maggie Garrison by Louis Trondheim and Stefan Ory. Translation by Emma Wilson, Self-Made Hero. Stay by Louis Trondheim and Hubert Chevillard. Translation by Mike Kennedy, Magnetic Press, and Wrath of Phanomus by Olivier Bouquet and Julie Ruchelot. Translation by Edward Gauvin, Titan Comics. My first reaction to all this is way too many books translated by the same people and 2 books by the same author in Louis Trondheim. It's just very narrow-minded selections by the judges. It doesn't mean they're not good choices. It's just there probably was better stuff out there. The very next category, the best U.S. edition of international material / Asia, we list a bunch more, 5 more. And frankly, I would be merging these 2 categories together. I don't know why Asian material has to be separate from other international materials necessarily. But if I was going to pick any of these, the only one I'm really that familiar with is Diabolical Summer, and it was okay. I wouldn't say it was great. I've heard of Stay. I've heard of The House. Have not seen them. Not at all familiar with Gramercy Park or Maggie Garrison. So, as the Asian ones, it's B-Stars. I have read some reviews on that one. I looked at a preview on it. It was, okay. Not my favorite thing in the world. Cats of the Love by Taiyo Matsumoto, translation by Michael Arias from Viz Media. Grass, we've already mentioned this earlier. I guess, I don't know. Clamp getting nominated again. Clamp's always getting nominated for Best International Material from Asia. Come on. Next. Plo Clan by Motio Hagio, translation by Rachel Thorne. Okay. Witch Hat Altier by Kamone Shirahama, translation by Stephen Kohler. Kodasha Comics. Okay. I guess I would go with Grass from Asia, and I would go with Diabolical Summer. But I really don't see why these 2 categories are separated from one another. I think if you merge these 2 and half of them, you could cut. I really do. I don't know. Best Archival Collection Project comic book strips. Cham, the best comic strips and graphic novelettes from 1839 to 1862 by David Kunzel, University Press of Mississippi. Did see it. It's well done, well executed book. Not something I wanted in my collection, though. Ed Leffingwell's Little Joe by Harold Gray, edited by Peter Maresca and Sammy Harcum, Sunday Press Books. Seen it, didn't actually look at it as up close and personal or anything. Mark Andrew Smith says they have a Japanese garden park in San Antonio that was cared for by a Japanese family, but they sent them away during World War II, and then had a Chinese family take it over and renamed it Chinese Park. That's in relation to the They Called Us Enemy thing with George Takei. Sorry, I had my camera on my looking at other screen, didn't see it. So that's a good book and topic overall. Yes, that is definitely a like I said, one of the most important books, I think. Black Lives Matter. Yeah, so are Japanese and other Asian American lives. Go read that. Sorry if I'm a little bit pissy about BLM, but I am. I'm not going to get into the whys. But we'll go back to the archival collections. George Harriman Library, Crazy and Ignatz, 1916 to 18, edited by R.J. Casey, Fantagraphics Books. And Crazy Cat, the Complete Color Sundays, edited by George Harriman, edited by Alexander Braun by Taschen. Madness and Crowds, A Teeming Mind of Harrison Cady by Violet and Dennis Kitchen, Beehive Books and Pogo, Volume 6. Clean as a Weasel by Walt Kelly, edited by Mark Evanier and Eric Reynolds by Fantagraphics. Really, all these are good quality choices for comic strips. I can't really think of any others that would really need to be added to this. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go. I think the two George Harrimans are going to cancel each other out, and they're not going to, even though I think they're the best two, I think they're going to cancel each other out. So, as far as getting votes, Little Joe or Pogo Volume 6 will probably win, I think. Because, like I said, I think the two George Harriman collections will cancel each other out a little bit. I don't think anybody's going to care about Cam. I hate saying that because it's a very good series. It was well presented. Kunzel did a great job putting it together. Or rather, I should say the people who put it together at the University Press of Mississippi did a good job. But I really think Little Joe or Pogo will get it. Best archival collection project for comic books is Alley Oop by William Groper from New York Review Comics. The complete Creepex Volume 5 American Stories edited by Christy Valenti from Fantagraphics. Jack Kirby's Dingbat Love, edited by John Morrow. Two Morrows. Moonshadow, the Definitive Edition by J.M. DeMatteis, John J. Muth, George Pratt, Kent Williams, and others from Dark Horse. Stan Sakai, Usagi Yojimbo, the complete grass cutter artist select by Stan Sakai. Edited by Scott Dumbier. Select, I guess that's the oversized edition. Miyoka Sagaya Feeling by Shinichi Abe. Translation by Ryan Holmberg. Edited by Mitsuhiro Sakawa from Black Hook Press. Oh man, that's a good list. I don't know. That's a really good list. I have to. I'll applaud the judges on that list, definitely. I've read Moonshadow before, and obviously I've reviewed Usagi Yojimbo, so two of those are some of my preferred choices. Dingbat Love is was such a funny name for a humor romance title that it was back in the 50s, and it's so I mean, and Kirby is Kirby, so any of those three win it, I'm okay with it. I think even if Complete Creepax Volume 5 got it, I wouldn't complain. But the other two, I'm not. Alley-Oop, I'm not really sure if that's what I think it is. And the other one, the Miyoko Asagaya Feeling, I don't know that one. But really, any of them are good choices. So I really can't complain about the selection there or what might win out of that particular category. And you can't go wrong with your Sagi or Jimbo. Yeah, you really can't. Best writer is Bobby Curnow for Ghost Tree, IDW Publishing, MK Reed and Greg Meach for Penny Nichols from Top Shelf Production. Mariko Tamake for Harley Quinn, Breaking Glass, Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, and Archie. Louis Trunham for Stay and Maggie Garrison. G. Willow Wilson for Invisible Kingdom and Ms. Marvel. Chuck Zdarsky for White Trees, Daredevil and Spider-Man Life Story, and Afterlift, which they had a Comixology on this. This is the only time I see Comixology even being mentioned, which raises an eyebrow, and I'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk more about the general theme here. If I'm going to pick one, I'm going to pick G. Willow Wilson for Invisible Kingdom. And then my backup would be Mariko Tamaki because Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. Those would be my two picks. Neither one of them will probably win because they're women, but those would be my picks. Best writer artist, Nina Bunjevic for Bezamina from Fantagraphics Books, Mira Jacob, Good Talk, which we mentioned, and The Menopause and The Believer, June 1, 2019, so a little over a year ago. Kim Suk, Jenry Kim for Grass, James Stoko for Sobek, Raina Telgemeier for Guts, or Tilly Walden for All You're Listening. That's a tough one. Think about that for a second. I think the fanboys will pick Stoko. The kids will pick Telgemeier. The teachers for younger kids will pick Raina Telgemeier. And if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Tilly Walden, actually, out of that list. I think All Your Listening is the most powerful book of those, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. So there's that. I don't know if I would make another choice instead of those. It's kind of obvious that the reason they picked these are because of who they picked on some of the better books. They're going to go with the creators from those books. That makes sense. So, I don't really have a problem with the list per se. So, again, of those, I would probably go with Tilly Walden. The best penciler inker or penciler inker team, Ian Bertram for Little Bird Image Comics, Colleen Doran, Snowglass Apples from Dark Horse Comics, Bill Quee Evely from The Dreaming DC Comics, Simon Gain for Ghost Tree, IW Publishing, Steve Pugh for Harley Quinn Breaking Glass, and Rosemary Valero O'Connell for Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. Got to go with Colleen Doran, that group, and that particular product. My second, probably Bill Quee Evely, but my first choice would be Colleen on that. The best digital artist, best painter, Didier Casagrain for Blackwater Lilies from Europe Comics Not Familiar, Alexandre Clarice Diabolical Summer from IDW Publishing, David Mack cover, No. Leah Mazet, Elma, Bears Life, Volume 1, The Great Journey, Europe Comics, not familiar. Julie Rocheleau for Wrath of Fontimus, not familiar. That leaves Christian War, Visible Kingdom. That's the one I'm familiar with. That's what I'm going to go with. So there you go for that. Best cover artist, Jen Bartel for Blackbird, Image Comics, Francesco Francavilla for Archie 955, Archie vs. Predator 2 and Cosmo, Archie Comics. Okay, David Mack, American Gods, Fight Club 3 for Dark Horse and cover for DC Comics, Emma Rios for Pretty Deadly, Image Comics, Julian Totino Tedesco for Daredevil for Marvel, and Christian Ward for Machine Gun Wizards and Invisible Kingdom. Well, Christian Ward or Francesco Francavilla, either one, I'm okay with. I'd even be okay with Jim Bartel. Emma Rios, I mean, she's not a bad artist, but I don't see her as the best cover artist. And Tedesco, no, I just don't see it. And David Mack, he's won too many already. I would go, like I said, I kind of hope it's Francesco. I hope it's Francesco. So out of those. Best coloring, Lorena Alvarez, Hikatea, No Brow, Jean-Francois Bioleo, Middle West, and Outpost Zero from Image Comics, Matt Hollingsworth. Mark Andrew Smith mentioned another thing about Usagi. Always gets my creative energy going again. Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit too. Let's see. Matt Hollingsworth, Curse of the White Knight, Little Bird in November. Okay, whatever. Molly Mendoza, Skip, No Brow. Okay, Dave Stewart, and all the different things he does for Black for Lemire and Hellboy and all that stuff. Stewart's won too many times. Hollingsworth has won too many times. And I'm really not familiar with the other three. So, I just kind of like, it's too narrow. They pick two guys that always win or always get nominated. And the other three are just, they're there. I guess I would give it to Biao Liao from Middle West and Outpost Zero. Partly because Middle West is coming to a close as a series this year, really soon. And so if he's going to get it for that, he needs to get it now, I guess you could say. If he's going to get it, this is the year for that project. So I guess I'd give it to him. Best lettering. Darren Bennett for 5 or 6 different DC books. Canto from IDW Publishing and Assassination. Excellence. He's basically, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different titles he's been nominated for best lettering. Come on, that's a bit excessive. I'll give him the award for being most prolific, maybe. No, I have to give that to Clayton Cowles, maybe, down the list here. How many he got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Woo! Come on, guys. There's other letterers out there. Wow. That's crazy that these guys have that many different books there. Just for that, I have to go with Stan Sakai for Usagi Yojimbo or Tilly Walden. And since Tilly Walden, I already said for earlier, we'll just give it to Stan for best lettering. I mean, the thing that kind of annoys me about the lettering is that they're doing all these lettering, but how much of it is computer lettering versus hand lettering? And I know Stan's doing it by hand, or at least he had been. Maybe he's got a computer now to do his style. He made a font for himself off his handwriting by now. But I mean, to me, there's an art form to lettering that is missing from the computer generation, and I'm just not so sure that I would even. I don't want to dismiss any of them. It's hard work. There's a craft to it. It's not. I just have to go with Stan. I'm sorry. Best comics related periodical in journalism. Thank goodness they went with print on this. Comics Riffs blog. Well, they didn't, because a blog is not print. By Michael Kavanagh. The Comics Journal, edited by Gary Groth, R.J. Casey, and Christy Valente. Hogan's Alley, edited by Tom Heintes. Hogan's Alley. Inks, the Journal of Comic Studies Society, edited by Kiana Whitted by Ohio State University Press. I wish I'd seen that. I didn't get to see that this year. Lab Magazine, Volume 4, This Was Your Life, edited by Ronald Wimberly and Josh O'Neill from Beehive Books and Women Write About Comics, edited by Nola Fafau and Wendy Brown. If I had to pick one of those, I kind of have to go with the Comics Journal in a way. I'm just grateful that it wasn't like CBR or Bleeding Cool for Best Related Comic Periodical and Journalism or something. Maybe there's something down there, down the list away, because I had not looked through this whole list. I'm going on this fresh, folks. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably go Comics Journal in there. Mostly because I haven't seen Inks and I haven't seen the Lab Magazine, but if I happen to come across either one of those, I reserve the right to change my mind on that particular category. Comics related book, best comics related book. Art of Nothing, 25 Years of Mutts in the Art of Patrick McDonald from Abrams. The Book of Weirdo by John B. Cook from Last Gasp. Grunt, the Art and Unpublished Comics of James Stelco from Dark Horse Comics. Logo, A Go-Go, Branding Pop Culture from Rion Hughes from Carrero Press. Making Comics by Linda Barry, Drawing Quarterly. And Screwball, the cartoonist who made the funnies funny by Paul Toomey, which is the American of Library of American Comics, IDW Publishing. I've been passing on James Stelco all night, haven't I? Let's go ahead and give Grunt that option as the forerunner on that. Second book would probably the Book of Weirdo, from edited by John B. Cook from Last Gasp. I think. Yeah, those probably would be my two choices on those. All of them are good choices, though. I don't think any of them winning would be a wrong decision. I think that was a good list from the judges. Best academic, woo, scholarly work. The Art of Pierre Jones, Space, Landscape, and Comics World by Benjamin Fraser, University of Texas Press. I'm not familiar with that one. Okay, The Comics of Rutu Mudan, Love, War, and Secrets by Kevin Howarth, University of Press, Mississippi. Good book. Borrowed that out of the library. Did not review it because I didn't think it was something the audience would really be interested in, but it is a very solid book. EC Comics, Race, Shock, and Social Protest by Kiana Whitted, Rutgers University Press. Probably going to be the one that wins because of what's going on in our society right now. It'll be the most topical. Peanuts Papers, Writers and Cartoonists on Charlie Brown, Snoopy and the Gang, and the Meaning of Life, edited by Andrew Bwanner, Library of America. I don't see why I don't call that an academic work per se. But I guess that would be the category to put it in. All right. Essays, essays from different writers on it, and what it meant to them is not really a scholarly piece, but like I say, I guess it fits the category. Producing Mass Entertainment, The Serial Life of the Yellow Kid by Christina Meyer. Ohio State University Press. That's a reasonable choice. Women's manga in Asia and beyond, uniting different cultures and identities, edited by Fusami Ogi, and etc. from Palgrave Macmillan. I haven't seen that one, but I think, again, that might be a second one, but I really think it's going to be EC Comics, the race shock and social protest. That's going to be the one that probably pulls the win. In terms of, like I said, again, we're in this weird social, societal worldview right now that anything that's about that type of topics where we're arguing about race or shock value stuff or social protesting is going to be first on people's minds, I think. So, but the manga, I don't know. It's interesting though. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good one. That's a good category. I think the judges are doing a decent job on picking their stuff. I know someone here is going to argue with me on that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Best publication design, Grunt, if that person's still around. Grunt, the art and unpublished comics of James Stokoe, designed by Ethan Kimberling. Crazy Cat. Crazy Cat, Complete Color, Sundays with George Herman, designed by Anna Tina Kessler. Logo A Go-Go, designed by Rand Hughes. Carrero Press. Madness and Crowds, Teeming Mind of Harris and Katie, designed by Paul Koppel and Alex Bruce by BI Books. Making Comics, designed by Linda Berry, drawn quarterly, and Rusty Brown, designed by Chris Ware. Chris Ware always wins publication design. I wish they'd stop nominating him for that. Sometimes I think people just need to be, here's your GOAT award, goodbye. Some of this stuff. I guess I have to go with Grunt for the James Stokoe book of those. If I didn't go there, I'd go Making Comics, designed by Linda Berry. But again, all solid choices. I can't complain about any of the choices. Best digital comic, Afterlift by Chip Zdarsky and Jay Slew, Comixology Originals. The fact that the Comixology was mentioned above in that other category probably shouldn't have been, in my opinion. I've mentioned this before. If you've got a digital comic situation, keep it in the digital comics, not in the print, but that's just my opinion. Blackwater Lilies by Michael Bussey, adapted by Frederick Duval and Didier Cassegrain, translated by Edward Govan, Europe Comics. Colored The Unsung Life of Claudette Colvin by Tanya de Montegain, adapted by Emile Plateau, translated by Montana Kane from Europe Comics. Elma, A Bear's Life, Volume 1, The Great Journey by Ingrid Chabert and Leah Mazet, translated by Jenny Offieri, Europe Comics. Mare Internum by Dershing Helmer, Comixology and Gumroad. And Tales from Behind the Window by Ednar Kuntman, translated by Sam Called Algan, Europe Comics. Had to go pick one. I picked Blackwater Lilies, but I wouldn't give any of these. I would actually say my best digital comic stuff right now is probably, in my opinion, Ron Randall's Trekker at trekker.com and Patreon is what I would probably say for myself. But I don't know if they call that a digital comic because it's also printed, or they call it a web comic or what, but that's what I would go with probably right now off the top of my head. And the best webcomic is Chabramata by Matt Hoon, Chuck Wagon at the End of the World by Eric Lundy, The Eyes by Javi De Castro, Fried Rice Comic by Erica Ng, Remind by Jason Brubaker, or Third Shift Society by Meredith Moriarty. I would go with The Eyes by Javi De Castro of those lists. Now, let's see. If wrong thing. Hold on. Close that folder down. There we go. Mark Andrew Smith, if you're here, you had a kind of a grievance about the Eisner selections this year. You want to talk about it? I can either invite you into the room if you want, or you can post and I can put it on the screen. I'm staying out of it. Yeah, I understand. He also says it's not sharing it on air. Now all of a sudden, I don't know why it's not. There it goes. Seems better not to go down that negative well. Yes. Okay, I respect that. Fair enough. Let's just say he was a little bit upset that some of his work missed consideration this year. And, I'm going down the list of this stuff, and I don't know what all you submitted it for, Mark. I'm going to be honest with you. I could see maybe next year, but I don't know about this year. I think this year was pretty. They had some pretty decent choices. I just think that they were a little more book publisher centric, and I think that next year they're going to have to start paying more attention to all the stuff that's going on that we're publishing through the print on demand and direct to reader marketplace. I think the judges next year are going to have to pay a lot more attention to that because there's going to be so much content coming from people through Kickstarter and Indiegogo that you can't ignore it anymore. And that's one of the things. I don't know what they're going to do with the Eisners after this year because there's just such a huge shift in that respect. But yeah, I mean, they had some decent selections this year, but I wish that based on some of the stuff I saw on who they picked, the same ones over and over again. And I think that's part of why you were upset. You was like, hey, come on, pick someone else. Even if it isn't me, pick somebody, but not the same people. But yeah, I hear you. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, decent collections for this particular run. Not the I mean, I've seen a lot worse Eisner Award nominees. Um, I don't know. They're not going to award them at a ceremony. They don't know where it's going to be. The awards are going to be given because they canceled Comic Con, San Diego Con. So it'll be handled out later in the year, but the voting will still be online from those of us who get the nominees sent to us, the stuff sent to us to vote. So, um, I hope that Jackie realizes that I actually did cover quite a bit of stuff that was listed there over the stuff. I don't know where you got the notion that I didn't. Granted, I don't get everything. I can't get everything. Nobody. And first off, I can't afford that, even if I wanted to. And my libraries don't get everything either. So I can only get what I can get. So, but I can't. I've seen a lot worse years of nominations. So that's all for that topic for this evening. The next topic we're going to talk about is depression in comics. Over the last week, like I said, last weekend I did my taxes, and after I came out to filling out all my paperwork and figuring out all my deductions and everything, I came out not making any money this year. This past for 2019, I actually was $5,200 in the hole, and while that's very upsetting in and of itself, couple that with the fact that it's becoming increasingly difficult to even go to conventions despite the COVID-19. Even if that wasn't an issue, I probably wouldn't be going to shows this year because I can't afford it, obviously. People nagging me about what I should or shouldn't be doing on the podcast, what I should or should be doing as a creator. It's really just made me feel like, why am I bothering with any of it? And I realize I'm not the only one going through this, because I've seen Mark go through it, and we've had some conversations about our self-worth as human beings through our work, and how people treat and mistreat us as human beings based on our work or lack thereof, or whatever their perceptions of our work are. I've seen other creators dealing with anxiety and up and down, because you get energy spikes and you feed off other people's creative energies, and you get excited, and you're working on your own work, and then you're waiting for feedback on that work. And when it doesn't come from audience base, or doesn't come from people on Facebook or whatever, you start questioning why you're doing something, because it's not, it's ups and downs type of thing that we deal with. I've seen dozens of artists and writers in the last 6 to 10 months just questioning their livelihoods, questioning their very lives in general, because they're not getting work in the industry. They don't know what they're doing. And I don't want to name names and point you to their Facebook pages or anything like that. They're all friends of mine. If I know I've got over 1,200 friends, but if you start looking at my friends that are professionals, you'll see a lot of people talking about the same kind of things, questions of self-worth right now. And we recently just saw a huge thing all over Facebook that the artists were the least important thing, we don't matter type thing. Out of some poll, they asked 10,000 people from Singapore or something, and people thought that was Americans saying that. That was the first misrepresentation of that particular piece that was being spread around Facebook. But it was like 71% said that artists and writers don't matter. It's basically, and of course we matter, but when you see that kind of reaction from general society that we're disposable, expendable, not important, it erodes your self-value, and it's very difficult to deal with. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I can honestly say if I didn't have my father to take care of, I wouldn't be here. That's how angry I am at the world about it. How fed up I am with society, and because we live in a world where you don't understand my problems, so why should I care about yours? I guess seems to be the attitude. I don't know. Like I said, we got the Black Lives Matter situation going on, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that happens. What about when it happens to the Native Americans? What happens to the Asian Americans? What about when it happens over here or over there to the other people that are people of color? It happens to them too. Not that your life doesn't matter, but when you say Black Lives Matter, you're acting like we exclude you but count them. Well, nobody's being counted, so don't put your own kind before them. But that's my take on it, and it ticks me off. I see Black creators saying stuff like, "Hey, Black Lives Matter, so give me more work," and they have work, and I'm sitting there $5,000 in the hole, no assignments, and this guy's got 3 books and working in television on top of it. And you just want to choke the guy out, and that's not racism. That's just, hey, you're being a selfish prick, stop it. You got yours, but others have theirs. But so yeah, I'm dealing with depression. A lot of people are dealing with depression at different times, and I don't really know what the answer, what the solutions are for it. I really don't. Anybody want to comment on that? Ted Davies actually says, "I'm thankful that you're there for your father." Yeah, I don't know. I guess when I say that, it's kind of a mental thing for me. I've been a caregiver for my parents for so damn long. It's like, okay, fine. It's an obligation. You fulfill it. Why make his life worse than it is? In that respect, because he's already lost his wife, my mom, and why should he be alone? I guess in that respect, I guess is the way I look at it in that sense. I know a lot of my friends, you included, Ted and John. I know John feels this way too, and Mark probably does as well. Um, there's other people who have talked to me about this privately. Um, it's just I know a lot of people think it's the COVID-19 talking, that I've been disconnected from it because of that. People need to understand I've been disconnected from society ever since my parents got sick in the 90s. I've been separated from society, caring for them all the time. And most of us who work in comics kind of live sheltered lives and are in homes all the time. We don't go out that much. We have friends certainly, but it's hard. Mark Andrew Smith says it's easy to get swept up in everything, and there is the internet world and the real world. Yeah. And for someone like me who's been stuck at home, don't have a lot of real world connections that much. My real world connections are John Norris when I see him, and I haven't seen him since last year, and Tracy Hollingsworth, who isn't here right now, but he doesn't come on the show, but he does listen sometimes. Thank you for being around, Tracy. And a couple of other people but the thing is, I only see them in person once in a blue moon. We all have very busy schedules in the real world, so to speak. Tracy's got a band. He teaches drums. He works in a recording studio. He works at a comic shop as the toy manager. So, I mean, man's busy. So it's Funhouse Mirrors. In a way, it is Funhouse Mirrors, yeah. It'll be 8 years tomorrow. My dad passed away, and I miss him very much. Well, I can relate to that, I guess. I mean, my mom passed away in 2011, so I guess it's be 9 years in July. But I guess, how do I put this? It's not that I don't miss my mom, but I'm glad she's gone, because the last few years of her life were such suffrage that I wouldn't want her to go through more of that. And she wasn't the same person near the end of her life because she had brain damage from a stroke, and she wasn't the same. And she knew she wasn't the same, and it's very sad in that respect. But yeah, I mean, if I could have the person she was before that happened back, yeah, hell yeah. I'd love to have that person back for multiple reasons. But I think as far as people we miss from being gone, it's kind of hard for me because everybody I ever cared about in that way, family, like say from my father, is gone, and like the woman I was going to marry was killed by a drunk driver 30 years ago in December. So it's kind of a thing. The world is cruel, but that doesn't mean you're not worthy to contribute to it being better. Well, that's kind of what we're here for, isn't it? We'll talk about that a little bit with your book, maybe when we get to the reviews. Mark Andrew Smith says, I have the Facebook and social media problem too, because that's all it is. So I'm trying to get away from that and get my mind right. Yeah. And you got a little bit more difficult. Well, I don't know about more difficult than me, but you definitely have a difficult situation because you just relocated, and you probably haven't met that many people because of the situation with the COVID-19 and stuff. So, but then again, at least, hopefully your job will start soon. At least you'll hopefully get to meet some people there, as that goes. John Norris says, I'm glad to have you as a friend, even though we don't see each other nearly as often as we'd like. Yeah. I don't blame you or anything like that, John. It's just, I don't know. I've been in that weird funk for a long time, and as you well know, John, because you've seen it from me for years. Other people have noticed it in me for a long time, and it does affect my production. A lot of people are asking me, well, why aren't you writing and drawing? The real answer is I don't want to. I have no real desire to. Sometimes I get amped up a little bit and I do something for someone, like I did something for Mark and Armand recently that'll hopefully get shared when it's time. It's not time to share it yet. But when I go to write or draw, a lot of the time, what used to be something that I did for myself, and it was a little bit of, it was part of who I was, I guess. I don't know how to, it brought happiness, I guess. I don't know. But now to me, it's just work to be done. And it's, if I'm not being paid, why bother? In a way, is how I feel a lot of the time. And it's not the right mentality to have. In a way it is if you're being commercial, but in terms of our creator owned stuff, you really gotta have your heart in it. And I don't have it right now. And if I don't have it right now, I'm not going to half-ass it. And that's one of the reasons why I don't produce stuff. And people need to understand that. And, not say, well, you're not doing it because you suck. Or you're not doing it because, whatever, because I've told you guys, not you specifically, you three, but, I've told fans constantly at shows that nag me about not putting out stuff. Prove to me you want to see it. Give me a reason, and because to me, I don't feel like there is, and that's not a good place to be in, emotionally or psychologically. And I haven't found a way to get out of that. And I know there's other artists who are saying the exact same thing on their Facebook pages and on their DeviantArt pages. And I don't know, maybe we need to have a support group, a private support group for artists and writers for comics who are dealing with this stuff. So we're there for each other. I don't know. That's part of why you don't see me drawing, even doing quick videos. The other reason I don't do the drawing videos as much as I should here on this channel, is because the camera I'm using right now, I mean, you guys have seen it. I'm over there to the left and where my table is for drawing, and the camera angle is kind of like that, and my arm's always blocking the artwork and stuff, and people complain about that. So I want to get another camera that I can set up directly over the table, and no money to do it, obviously. So I kind of feel like, what do people want from me? But we'll figure it out, I guess. But it's crazy. I know other people are dealing with depression and other things too. I mean, I hear, as much as I'm kind of venting at the moment, every day I get to play unpaid, non-certified psychologist to about 4 or 5 other people a day throughout the week, every week. And I don't know. We're all hurting, and I don't know how to fix anything for myself, let alone anyone else. And it hurts because there's people I love very much, but I can't help. And I know they care. They know I care about them, but I don't know. It's crazy. No, thanks, Ted. I don't know. I watched too many people in this um, culture, this podcast culture, cancel culture, where everybody just tears down everybody else. Mark says I should adopt 15 cats. I got one. That's enough of those. I don't. And the truth is, I have one in the house, and we used to have 2 or 3 that came around that we fed outside, but our new neighbors behind us didn't like them and started trapping cats, and we haven't seen the cats around anymore. I don't know if they trapped them and sent them to the shelters or what they did. But so all I see now is all I got is my own kitty, and there are a lot of rabbits around lately, though. Big suckers. I mean, wow. I mean, probably about, oh geez, 1.5 feet wide and about 1.5 feet not standing up on its hindquarters. Big rabbits over here. And I'm like, where the heck they come from? But you know, yeah. But I wouldn't mind having cats. I just as John can tell you, with my old house, we had a cat in the house, and we had like 12 of them that we fed that came on the backyard, up on the back porch, and took care of them that way. But they were outdoor, wild animal type cats. But yeah, I like cats, so I wouldn't mind that if I had the space for them and they got along. But yeah, so I don't know. That's the other reason I'm still here, is actually because I got the cat. I probably, even if my dad was gone, I'd stick around for the cat until it died. Mark Andrew Smith says he's thinking about getting a Corgi, but it's a 3-month wait. Is that a 3-month wait just for that particular breed, or is that a 3-month wait because of current circumstances with the COVID-19, or what? And John says, I remember those cats. Yes, I bet you do. I miss those little buggers, but you know, I miss the one. John probably remembers the one that used to come around here, where I'm living now. But it was like, what was it? It came from what we called the cat now, because we haven't seen him in so long. But I don't even want to try to make the sound it makes, but it sounds like an air raid siren when it cries. It won't shut up. Just imagine that for 2 minutes straight from a cat, maybe about that big. Yeah. But Mark Indersmith says living overseas makes it hard to have pets, but that would be the one I could bring with me. Yeah, it's a smaller one that you could bring with you. Generally, you still have to go through quarantines and stuff, but it's because it's usually a 6 month wait. Well, it's only a 3 month wait, and it's usually 6. That's not too bad. Yeah, corgis are a decent dog. I've got relatives who have a corgi, and Jimmy Robinson of Bomb Queen fame has a corgi, and there's other people I know who have corgis. So, they're a cool little dog. If I was going to get a dog, I'd be more of a boxer bulldog mix, boxer pit mix myself, but that's just me. But I don't really want a dog these days. Dogs are more work than a cat in a way, which in a way is better in some respects, because you have to take the dog out for a walk and exercise, and that means you're getting exercise. I wish I could take my cat for a walk. I could put the harness on him and I could take him outside, and all he does is go kaplop on his side and lay there and look at you like, what are you doing? I'm not going anywhere with this. But Boston Terriers are cute. Yeah, they're okay. I just prefer a dog that's a larger animal for me, I guess. I understand what you're talking about, because like you say, you've been overseas a lot, and you want to have a dog that you can take with you, and unless you got a working dog that's big, working meaning special needs animal, or in your case, you worked with a lot of educational for security and stuff. So of course it might be a security animal, but still, then like I said, it's still got a quarantine and stuff, other stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I've just always been more of a cat person. I've had cats since I was a little kid, and I had dogs in my early teens because I lived with my grandfather at that time, and he had dogs, and we had dogs because of him after, we brought some more into the family. But once those were gone, it was just too much hassle. A lot of people don't want to rent when you have dogs. A lot of people don't want to, you got to have a yard. You got to have things that makes things different, Yeah, medium size is good, but the big dog is a challenge if you're not selling it. Well, what do you call a medium and what do you call a big dog? I mean, the dogs I had ran 40 to 80 pounds, depending on the breed. So, but, the thing, like I said, dog, you need to walk them, you need to exercise them, which is a good thing for you because then you get exercise. I just, my dad and I just haven't really wanted one since we lost the last one. So it is what it is. But before we get too melancholy, we've been on almost over an hour and a half. So we better get to our reviews. I promised Santos I would do my review on Black Science, volumes 1 through 9. So, publishers, Image Comics, writers, Rick Remender, artist Mateo Scalera, colors is Dean White for volumes 1 and 2, and Moreno Dionisio for volumes 3 through 9. The genre is science fiction. The prices are variable. First issue was $9.99, the first volume. They go $14.99 up to $16.99 as the series progresses. I think it depends on the number of page count, or maybe just as the years progressed, the economy, they had to raise the price to get the same amount of profit. I don't know. Anyway, what it's about. An overachieving scientist named Grant McKay, whose marriage is failing, takes his teenage kids to work to see his greatest invention, a dimensional portal machine called a pillar. Unfortunately, his boss, an ex-boyfriend of his wife named Kadir, has sabotaged the device, which sends all of them dimension hopping, each time destroying the dimensions they leap into as in their wake as they leave to the next dimension. Can McKay find a way to get his children back home and rebuild the family he lost? Recommended for ages 16 and up, rating 3 out of 5 stars. Now, conceptually, Corgi is medium, Springer's Spaniel medium. Okay. I guess I prefer big dogs then. No biggie. Where was I? On the Black Science stuff, I gave it 3. Conceptually, it was a 5, had potential to be a 5. But as I've mentioned before, I had these trades for a long time. I kept reading them, and I'd get so far, and I'd kind of get bored with it and then stop reading it and have to come back to it. Well, I finally got through reading the whole series, and I know why. And the reason why is because there's 43 volumes of 43 issues in 9 volumes. And over those 43 issues, we watched the McKay family go through failed attempt after failed attempt to fix things and get back to their home dimension, often battling other dimensional versions of themselves who are telling them they're screwing everything up and screwing it all up to hell as the story progresses. Because of this, the story constantly repeats the same themes and tropes and events again and again. Well, no wonder I couldn't muddle through it and kept losing interest in the series. It's twice as long as it should have been. Too many doppelgangers, too many redundant events. This whole thing could have been done in 25 issues instead of 43. Because of all the unnecessary repeating chapters dragging it on, what could have been a 5-star series ended up being a 3-star series for me. A shame. Mateus Scalera does a great job on the art, but this is a series that really needed the editor to put the clamps down on the writer, even though it's creator-owned. Image, creators don't do what they can do. Editor needed to set Rick down and say, "Look, you're saying the same thing over and over and over again. Either move the plot or characters forward to something different, or bring it to a close." It really needed that, in my opinion. So, shame, but it is what it is. So it's finally reviewed. I wouldn't disagree with it. It's had potential for greatness. It became average, basically. So our next one is Canopus number 3 for $3.99. Publisher is Scout Comics. Writer artist is David Chisholm. Genre science fiction released this week, June 17th, 2020. What it's about is Dr. Sterling and her AI assistant Arthur make it through the plant Memoria's psychic recreations and manage to take some of the plant's minerals to try to take back to Earth to save humanity. The story flashes back to the history of why the mission existed and what has happened on Earth and why the pair are alone now. They collect the minerals and try to leave the planet only to have a booster rocket on their starship fail and they crash again. Recommended for ages 13 up. Rating is 3 stars. The reason it's 3 stars, even though I've been given 4.5 on the first 2, is because it's getting redundant. It's getting a little bit too obvious as to where he's getting his ideas from. And it's not feeling original enough to me. And so I got 3 this time instead of the 4. But here's the artwork. And the art's nice. And she's explaining to the rest of the crew that she's antisocial and doesn't want interaction with them. And then she's talking to the AI kid, Arthur, and telling it to go away because she doesn't want to talk to him either, type situation. But it basically, the Memoria planet is very much like Solaris. if you've ever seen the movie Solaris or read the book Solaris. Stanislaw Lem, where the planet psychically taps into your mind and creates versions of what you see in your mind, memories of people and stuff like that. That's what this is doing. It's the same thing. And there's other things that are just, okay, you got this from this science fiction story. You got this from that science fiction story. You're hodgepodging it, but you're not making it unique enough to be your own. So it's just a little bit of a disappointment this month. Our next book is Disaster Inc. #1, $4.99 from Aftershock Comics. The writer is Joe Harris. The artist is Sebastian Perez. But that is how he spells it, as you can see on the cover. The cover that you see here is by Andy Clark and Jose Villarrubia. And there's 2 other covers. None of them are by the interior artist, Sebastian Perez. The genre is horror adventure, I guess you could say. It was released last week, June 10th, 2020. What it's about. Disaster Incorporated is a tourist company that takes clients to restricted areas on under-the-radar tours. In this particular instance, the Fukushima disaster in Japan after a 9.0 earthquake hit the country, and the tsunami that followed resulted in the destruction of 3 nuclear plants. The story in issue #1 is mostly just an introduction to the cast of characters, and it doesn't give enough information about any of them for an audience to care about them, in my opinion, as of yet. And I hate to say it, but the cover is the nicest thing about the book. It's not the same style as the interior work. Not that the interior artist is bad. He's not bad at all. But it's not, when you got this to look at as your opening thing and the artwork inside is completely different. Even though it's good, it's not as, I don't want to say it's not as good. It's just different, you know. I would have preferred Andy Clark doing the whole thing, I guess. But anyway, it's recommended for 16 and up. I gave it a 2.5-star rating, mostly because there's just no story here. He's writing it like a screenplay instead of a comic book. And this is going to be a problem this week for a lot of people. If I were to translate this into a movie or TV, this wouldn't take up the first 5 minutes of screen time. There's nothing here. Okay, you got like a segment in the beginning of the book where you see that demon shogun warrior rise up and kill 2 people, and then you cut to the other thing. Mark Anderson says, I like Great Pacific that Joe Harris did. And yes, he's playing with the same tropes of Great Pacific with the ecological stuff with this, with the radioactive earth and everything like that with this. And I'm not saying Joe Harris is a bad writer. I'm just thinking this is just, it's the wrong pace for a book, for a comic. If it looks like he picks things that are somewhat around the French Ninjas, in a way, yeah, that's sort of what he's trying to do. But let me see if I've got the interior art here or not. Okay, I do. This is the interior art, and this is by Sebastian Perez. And as you can see, it has a completely different art style. And they're talking about the history of the people that were trying to leave the irradiated area. The people just came and torched them with flamethrowers and killed them. And there's this tourist group of people, and they're out there in a tour bus, and all of them are shady characters who have different things about them that you really don't know, but he's hinted at. And presumably, at some point, you're going to see this demon shogun chasing them down or something, but it hasn't come to that yet. Mark Andrew says, many tends to take a normal reel with it eventually goes sort of off the rails with everything coming into it. which could defeat grounding it in reality. Well, it's not so much. Again, that's not really the issue here. The issue here is the pacing of the story. Basically, you've got a photographer and her guide get killed by that Shogun demon in the first 3 pages of the story. Then you see this blue-haired chick and the guy in the hat that you see in the middle panel on the left page. They're kind of the people that run the tourist group, and he's kind of like the shady con, and she's kind of like stuck working for him for some reason. We don't know why. And then all these other people that are behind them are people that paid in cash to go on this trip. And the guy who's driving the bus is another shady character, but we don't know who anybody is. Or why should we care about them yet? When I go through 22 pages and I don't know why I should care about any of the characters after one issue, that's not a good thing. So the art's nice. I still think the cover is the best part of it. But he's writing it where like that first scene where the 2 people get killed would be your pre-credit scene, and the rest of the stuff that you're seeing in the next 20 pages would take up 5 minutes of screen time. That's not a story. So that's my gripe with that one. So I gave it a 2.5. I gave it a 2 or a 2.5. What did I give it? I gave it 2.5. And average is 3, so it's slightly below average because of that, in my opinion. Now, it might pick up in the next few issues. We'll see. I'm not throwing it out or anything. I'm just saying I wish that the pacing of the story was more fluid, I guess. Our next book is Heart Attack, number 6 from $3.99. Publisher is Image Comics, rather. Writer is Sean Kittleson. Artist is Eric Zawadzki. Colorist is Mike Spicer. The genre is science fiction superhero, released this week, June 17th. What it's about is the protesters against the government's harassment and abuse of persons of mass destruction, i.e. variant humans with superpowers, are killed by the local cops as ordered by the governor. Not much else to say about this story. Truth is, I'm not much liking this series. It doesn't conclude at this issue. I thought it was going to. And I think I've already mentioned in past episodes, I've gotten bored with it. I was just reading it to get to the end of the storyline. And it's not even the end of the storyline. It ends on a kind of a cliffhanger. Not really a cliffhanger, but, everybody gets killed. And now what's next type thing. I'm like, okay, well, I don't care. I'm done. So this is my last issue on this one, and I gave it a 2 because of that. And another reason is I'm not interested in a comic that is too close to the current events right now, and it is very, very close to current social events. It's too close, with people going on protests and potentially getting harmed by police, by corrupt government, and all this. No, thank you. I read comics to escape, not to dwell on the same shit that bothers me already. I think we all do. And I don't blame the writer for this. At the end of the issue, he explains that he pitched this series 6 years ago, and it took until late 2019 to begin to come out. So I don't know why it took that long. I don't know if he pitched it to Image first or if Image accepted it and then just had a hard time getting it on the schedule. Mark, you've worked with Image. You have a little more awareness of the inner workings there of how long things take from the time something's approved to the time it gets solicited. Is 6 years a little excessive? Because it seems like it's an excessive time to me. From the time it's pitched to the time it gets out there. I don't know. Anyway, it's ages 17 and up, and it's definitely mature readers. There's nudity in this issue. There's sex scenes in this issue. It's definitely 17 and up. Another reason why I had to getting disinterested with it. But let's see. I don't know if I put art with this one yet or not either. Did I? Yeah. Here's the protest scene right at the end, near the end of the book. One of the friends of the lead female went to the protest, and they're getting gassed and tased and shot, killed, beat up. And then here's the priest that was running the protest. Nobody knew he was a variant, and he has kind of a black bolt power. He screams, "I will fear no evil," and it kind of knocks him for a loop and stuff. But they're far enough away that they can shoot him down at range, so they shoot him dead. Mark says, "I'm not sure. It could have gotten approved and then taken forever to get the art in. It depends on the writers deal with the artists. Sometimes they split ownership, but the artist isn't getting paid, so they're working a job and making a book. So it could have been something like that." That makes sense. True enough, I guess. Yeah, that could be it. I don't know. It just, and you want to have at least 3 or 4 issues in the can before you solicit and stuff. Yeah, you're right. It just seemed like a really long time to me on that, unfortunately. But yeah, that makes sense, Mark. I guess I shouldn't be so judgmental on that. Okay. Yeah, my bad on that. I guess being a writer and illustrator of my own, I feel, I mean, I know what it's like to have to wait on people because I collaborated with others. I don't know. It could be because it's been so long since I've really collaborated on people on a project that I've forgotten. But yeah, that makes sense. All righty. Let's see. Next book. Rascal. That's my cat on the cover of the book. My cat Midnight. Name's Rascal. Hardcover, $14.99. Publisher Top Shelf Productions. Writer artist is Jean-Luc Deglin. Translation by Edward Gauvin. There's that name again. Genre is slice of life comedy. ISBN number 978-1-60309-463-4. 128 pages, black and white with blue one color tone, as you can see from the cover, with the shadow of the owner around the cat. And that is exactly what my cat does when he eats dry tack. He throws the food all over the plate, or all over the ground, or all over his mat, and then looks up at you and says, "My dishes have to give me more." But what it's about is a young woman's mother gives her a little black kitten to babysit for her neighbor, and then the neighbor dies. Now she must choose whether to keep the cat for herself. Filled with all the little behaviors that cats partake in and how we humans react to them, this is a warm, hilarious book that anyone can relate to, whether you own a cat or not. Recommended for all ages. 5 stars? No, it's a 10-star. You got to get this book. Got to read it. You just got to. It's awesome. It's 120 pages. I was laughing from page 4 on. And that's how hilarious this book is. It's just adorable. And yes, it does since the cat does remind me of my cat, on top of it, because I have a black cat, and it does certain things that my cat does in the book that it's just, it makes me laugh even more. But even my dad, who's 77, 78 years old, and doesn't give a damn about comics, I gave it to him to read, and he was roaring, laughing. So, and looking at the cat, yeah, this is you. You want to look at the reading book and look about yourself, because the cat's looking at him like, what are you laughing at? But yeah, so I can't recommend that book nearly enough. Let's take a look at the artwork. And this is the beginning of this thing. I can't believe this. My mom left a cat in my mailbox for a whole week in a box. No food, no water. She goes and texts her mom on the phone. Dear Mom, thanks for sending me a rotting corpse. Love you too. And the cat cries out of the box. But I don't like cats. Why would you do this to me? Meow, meow, meow. And she's imagining this white cat, angel cat coming out of the clouds. Okay, I'm going to let you out of the box now. And then there's this little black cat that just dives on her face. Just love it. And the little ones are, this is actually another page. I cut it up so I could fit it on the screen. But it's just little things that the cat sleeps in. A pair of boots, inside a cereal box. My cat still tries to sleep inside cereal boxes. He can't fit in them, but he tries. He tears them all up, and they're split open when he does it. My cat's never tried to get in a vase yet, thank God. Probably because we don't have any. And yes, the cat bed is always empty. He doesn't sleep in the cat bed. But anywhere else, so I was just like, yeah, I had to put that up there too. But that's just typical cat behavior, right? Right. Love that book though. That was kind of my highlight of the week, was getting that book. So yeah, if you can find that book, it's worth it. If you don't want to buy it, borrow it from a library. Just make sure you get that book. I think you'll be very satisfied. Our next book is our friend Ted Davies' book, Retrieve, from Avitas Press, issues number 1 and 2. Genre is science fiction. I received them right after the show, practically last week, the next day. So I got on June 12th, 2020. And what it's about are two brother scientists, Riley and Maximilian Sacher, create an artificial intelligence and prove that reincarnation not only exists, but they can track one's soul when one's soul returns to Earth. With this information at their disposal, their intent is to arrest and serve justice to those criminals who never faced it in their previous lives. They build a robotic body for their artificial intelligence, and they call it Archimedes, and that's what you see on the screen is the character Archimedes. And they start their search for the first person to bring to justice. The World War II criminal Joseph Mengele gave it a rating of 3.5 stars. John says Rascal looks really cute. Yeah, he's just adorable. Adorable cat. This is images from issue 1 of Ted Davies. I would have said real quick, Ted, I think the process should have taken more than 6 months to complete. I don't know. I would have said 18 months, 24 months, something like that. I don't know. I just felt like it should be a little bit more than 6. I don't know why. Just a random thought there. The rest of the stuff is really nice. I think some people are going to have kind of a weird reaction to the artwork because Ted draws his art in a it's not just that it's a unique way. He does a lot of watercoloring and water brush tone work to create shadows and of other effects in the work. And some people aren't going to necessarily know what to think of that and how to appreciate that for what it is, I think, because it's kind of a throwback method that isn't used often these days as much as it should be. And so I don't know if people are going to appreciate the art as well as they should, but I do appreciate the effort made there, and I do like what he's doing with it, and I love the concept of it. Let's go ahead and go back more to the second issue. and he's trying to fit shirts on his body because he feels like he's lacking clothing, and he feels he needs to wear clothes so that he's more socially acceptable and blends in and flair. It's very interesting stuff going on there. So story-wise, though, the concept of what Ted's going with here is that we all come back repeatedly, and they're going to punish us for our past sins. And I kind of like, okay, isn't that kind of what happens if reincarnation really exists and God exists? Wouldn't God be sending us back to Earth as punishment for our past sins and saying you screwed up, you're going back to get it right? So now you've been punished, you've been sent back to Earth. Now the humans are going to punish me for what I already did that I've already been punished for already. My God. I just kind of, that's just something that came to my mind there. I don't know. But it should be an interesting story. The pacing of the story, 2 issues, it's a little slow, but it's not as bad as Disaster Inc. or some of the other books I'm going to be talking about a little bit later. I think the biggest flaw in the work overall might be the lack of background in the work sometimes. There's some details there, but you take a look again. You'll see a lot of it is pretty open background. And we'll take another quick look at wrong thing here. There. I mean, you got a lab here, and yes, I see it's a lab, and stuff, and I'm seeing it. I get it, but at the same time, there's other things. There's a scene where the brothers are coming home to the lab, and they land at an airport, but there's no airport buildings, just a plane landing with nothing. in the panel, I was like, well, shouldn't there be a tower? Shouldn't there be something like that? And I'm not gonna completely destroy you on that, Ted, but I'd rather talk to you more extensively on that in private, because it's still a good book. There's things you can improve upon, and that's true of anybody's book. So, I like the concept. I gave it 3.5 stars, and it's got a lot of potential to improve, and looking forward to see some more of it. Our next book is Stealth number 2. $3.99. Oh, I didn't tell the price on Retrieve because I bought it online through his store, but I forgot the price I paid, and there's no prices on the covers of the book. That's another flaw that I keep nagging him. He's got to put his prices on the covers of his books. But that's beside the point. He'll get that straightened out. Stealth number 2, $3.99. Publisher Image Comics, writer Mike Costa, artist Nate Bellegarde, colors Tamara Bonvillain, covers by Jason Howard. The genre is superhero, released last week, June 10, 2020. What it's about is the origin of the stealth armor suit are revealed and how the introduction of the main villain of the story is presented. Didn't want to give too much more than that, basically because when I was writing up the review for this, I was just like, if I review this, I'm just going to tell you the whole damn story for the issue, and then there's no point in you reading it. To be honest, so it was just it's not that good a book. I'm sorry. I wish there was more to it than that. But I gave it a 3. I'm being generous. It probably should be more like a 2.5, but I gave it 3. Probably because I gave issue number 1 a higher rating, so I was trying to give it a fair balance because it wasn't that much of a drop off, but it really isn't that good. Recommended for ages 13 and up. And this is basically the story. The old man, the father, is waking up and with aliens that connected him to something, and he tried to tell the police and fire department, because he's a fireman, if you'll remember from the first issue, that he was abducted by aliens in this. And they told him he had to stop talking about it because they knew it wouldn't make sense. I sound crazy, but when he got home, I heard the whispers in my head again and went upstairs and found this little backpack that's like a Blue Beetle backpack, and now I've got a suit. Yeah. Okay, whatever, right? That was basically the gist of that, and he's telling that to his son, and you got to remember he's old now, and he's kind of losing his mind to Alzheimer's, but he can't pass the suit down to the kid because the suit is genetically connected to something that's surgically embedded in his spine, and the suit connects to that. Go figure. So, I don't know what they're going to do next with it, but after 2 issues, I'm kind of losing interest, but I don't know. I'll probably stick with it a little bit longer, see if it gets better. Next book is Strange Adventures, number 2 out of 12. The publisher is DC Comics Black Label, $4.99. The writer is Tom King. The artists are Mitch Gerards and Evan Doc Shaner. The genre is science fiction / superhero. It was released this week, June 17th, 2020. And what it's about is Batman has requested the aid of Michael Holt, also known as Mr. Terrific, to investigate the truth of Adam Strange's tell-all book. The story is told from Holt's thinking and consideration of Batman's request and his thought processes as he reads Strange's book while doing other tasks as well. I'm not sure I like the way King writes Terrific, as I do not ever recall him playing trivia games with his T-spheres whenever he goes, wherever he goes, constantly, no matter what he's doing. That could just be me, though. I don't follow the character that closely. Also didn't care for the nonsense about racial appreciation. Strange is a world-beloved hero from his book, but he's white, while Holt has also done his fair share of world saving, and he's a decathlon superstar and everything, and he's the 4th smartest man on the planet and all this stuff. But boo-hoo, nobody cares about him because he's black. That really turned me off in this book. I'm tired of that crap. Was not necessary to tell that in the story, as far as I'm concerned. It really knocked the book for me, unfortunately, in that respect. It was easily a 4.5, 5 until that part of it was coming in. I had just no. But anyway, whoops, pardon me. Again, the art's nice. And eventually Holt figures out whatever it is that he's supposed to be figuring out. And even Batman supposedly doesn't have a clue as to what Holt's figured out. And I know I have no earthly idea what King's driving at in the story yet. But the truth is, the delay of how long it took to get this issue from number 1, I'd already forgotten the story from number 1. So that's probably why I don't know what I'm doing. But who knows? But then again, the pacing of this is just weird. 12 issues to tell this story. I'm going to lay a bet. When this story is over, they'll be able to have done it in 4 issues instead of 12. It's recommended for 17 and up. I give it a 3. That means it's mediocre average. I just, But the art's good. I'll show the art. There's two art styles. This is the Mitch Gerard stuff, and he's talking to Batman after he's read the book and stuff like that. And, you know, they're talking back and forth. And I don't know who the pig face is. I know I should know who the pig face is that Batman's fighting, but I just can't think of his name because I don't follow the current Batman books that much. But anyway, you know, it's just it's there. You know, we'll wait and see how it goes. But here's the other art style in the same book. This is stuff by Evan Dockshinger, where Adam and his wife Alana are on Ran, and he's trying to find a different alien species to help them because while he was away on Earth before he could get zapped back to that planet, which, by the way, if you don't know what, Adam Strange's storyline is, it's basically the same storyline as John Carter, Warlord of Mars. They basically swiped it and just, you know, there's a beam that zaps him to the other planet every so often. He's just got to be on a certain coordinates to zap there. So, you know, okay, whatever. But, you know, it's okay. You know, we'll just wait for the next one, see what happens. Tartarus number 3, $3.99. Image Comics writer is Johnny Christmas. Artist is Jack T. Cole, and Johnny Christmas is the guy's actual name. You'd think it was a pseudonym, but or you know, a writer's name, but it's, you know, it's his actual name. But anyways, genre science fiction released this week, June 17th. What it's about: Tilde and Klinzu, the two leads from the first couple of issues, flee from the wreckage of the downed starship they escaped in last issue into the city of Tartarus. They get separated, and of course, Klinzu, being an ignorant debutante male, falls for the girl who really liked to be trapped and gets captured by bounty hunters. Tilde attempts to rescue him, but nearly succeeds, but ultimately has to surrender herself as well, only to learn that the leader of the bounty hunters is actually her twin brother that she never knew existed. Woo! This is going to be fun. It's intended for ages 17 and up. Rating is 3 stars. Again, kind of an average book. I didn't even bother with the artwork on this one. Not because the art was bad. I had so much stuff going on this week. I just didn't have time to do it. So I just moved on to the next one. But, you know, the art was fine. The story was fine. It's just, you know, middle of the road book. Okay. Next one. 0 Day Threat number 1 of 5, $3.95. Publisher Red 5 Comics. Writer James Galarte. Artist Tony Dunley. Color by Paul Little. Mystery. Genre is mystery, spy, espionage, thriller. Released last week, June 10th, 2020. What it's about: gone are the days of stealth bombs and missiles. Now both governments and corporations use stealth malware to engage in cyber wars to try to cripple their opponents' economic and political bases, while the public goes on with their lives blissfully oblivious to the threats they all face. Newman, a secret government agency, protects the United States from such threats. Or they did, until a woman with no ID or no memory washes up on the shores of Geneva, Switzerland, holding secrets that every government and underground organizations want. Recommended for 17 and up, 2 stars. Main reason it's 2 stars is the artwork is just, the artwork isn't there, and it has the same problem as Disaster Inc. No story. Basically, 22 pages, the girl's body is found floating up, washing up. They take her to the hospital. She wakes up. Guy says, "Oh, we didn't succeed in killing her off. I got to go to the hospital and kill her." She wakes up in the hospital. "Oh, I'm a Jane Doe. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I am." Killer arrives. Assassin arrives. She defends herself with martial arts, whoopee-doo, because, of course, why wouldn't she? She beats the crap out of a bunch of people, escapes, somehow finds computer room, security room in the hospital, locks it with a wrist tattoo of some sort, and then hacks into a computer. Even though she doesn't know why. I don't know why. I know I can hack. I don't know why. Okay, whatever. And it's like nothing happens really. You don't know what's going on. You don't know who this is. And the artwork looks really, really rough. The cover looks nice. I thought, I didn't look in the interior. I went by the cover. It's like, the cover looks okay. But, again, this is a story that, might tell 5 to 10 minutes of screen time in a movie. And that's not a comic book. They're two different things, and you pace them differently. So, I didn't scan into the other artwork because it just looks really rough. It looks like the guy digitally inked it roughly, and then it was colored, and the digital line art is jagged in different places and stuff. It just doesn't look very clean. And that's why I gave it a 2 as well. Our next book. Actually, I think that's our last one. It is our last one. Okay. Alrighty then. We've been on the thing for almost 2.5 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and go through our final things. And I didn't do my COPPA thing this week. That tells you how messed up I was. So let's do that real quick. In accordance with COPPA regulations, this episode of Quoth Raven was intended for ages 16 and up and is intended for ages 16 and up. And while some of the content we will feature is kid-friendly, the context of every episode is to address adults and inform them of said content for them to research as consumers in service of their youth, i.e. parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, librarians, etc. And I don't know how much cussing I used because I'm kind of in a blur because of, we already talked about my depression. Rated TV 16 and up. If you want to reach me on social media, you go to Facebook at lewis.brightraven, deviantart.com/brightraven. On Facebook, Quoth Raven, Lewis Brightraven. If you want to ask any questions, send me an email at quothravenlbr72@gmail.com. Or if you can't get me there, get me at lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. The podcast airs normally at 9 p.m. on Thursdays. I hope your week turns out better than mine has been this week. I hope I entertained you for the last couple of hours plus. I will see you all next week. Now my computer wants to screw up again. Ay, ay, ay.